All right, welcome back to another episode of Rapid Results. We have an amazing fellow Oregon Duck today, Bryan Cargill from Tactus Media, here to talk to us about video marketing. And in case you're wondering a little bit about who this Bryan Cargill guy is, he actually is from Tacoma, Washington. He played competitive soccer, but him and I met through the University of Oregon in our journalism school. And Bryan was one of the top video marketing, editing experts there. And I was going, who is this guy? And he actually, him and I have been in masterminds together throughout the years, constantly helping each other grow and develop. And then Bryan recently became a full-time entrepreneur, running a video marketing business. And so before I dive into more, Bryan, tell us, what is the biggest, most badass business accomplishment you're proud of?
Sure. Yeah. First off, thank you, Andrew, for having me on the podcast. This is amazing. Going live freaks me out. First of all, everyone, so I'm going to be editing myself in real time. So if I say something, I'm going to try to catch it, but I'm not perfect by any means. So I normally don't go live because I could say some stupid stuff at any point. And so please forgive me in advance. Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much for that intro. And I'll get to the question. But yeah, I did want to say, yeah, we met at U of O. You're recently married. Congratulations. Recently engaged. Congratulations,
Yeah.
Andrew.
Thank you.
And I think you're living on the East Coast, so we're crossing like 4 or 5 time zones right now.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, thanks for having me on. Like you mentioned, grew up playing soccer and playing competitive sports, and I still play a lot of sports today. And as an entrepreneur, I think that's really important, and we can kind of dive into that. But I think that competitive nature, or just having a community of people that you work with and connect with, is huge as an entrepreneur. And then yeah, a little bit about me. Graduated from U of O, moved to Portland, met not only Andrew at U of O, but met my wife now as of since August 21st, 2021. So recently married, and yeah, just started my business right before the pandemic and kind of survived along there. But I'm going to answer your first question, and then maybe we can unpack some of these other little details that aren't as necessary. But for a lot of people that are listening, my biggest and best business deal. Okay, so for me, I think a lot of people often think like money wise, like what dollar signs, what was the biggest one I was able to close? And I don't even know if that's really important. The one that's the most important to me was actually in like second grade. Shout out to Holden for buying an art piece that I made. I was really into drawing, hand drawing, and I like, he was like, hey, I'll give you, or I asked him, I was like, hey, for 50 cents, you want to buy a drawing? So I sold him like 3 or 4 drawings. And so big shout out to Holden for believing me and kind of giving me that early start. Cause I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never thought of it as a path for me. I was growing up, what was on a narrow and straight path. My parents were big influences on me. They're like, hey, go to college, get a job, do that. That was always the path for me, get a job. And that was like kind of a nice, secure, safe thing. But I needed to kind of dig into who I used to be to become an entrepreneur. So like for me, as being an artist or, starting with that drawing gave me that validation that early on, knowledge and ability that someone's like, oh, that doesn't look like crap. I'll actually buy that from you. And I think that was really cool. Now, today, maybe that would have been an NFT, potentially something like that.
So
Times has changed. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Like that first validation, my first art piece, something that I made that someone bought, Holden, that was really cool. And then I kind of leaned into that when I left my corporate job. I decided to like branch out and become an entrepreneur and really trust that people want to not buy my drawings, but buy my video production, video work that I do. And so I had to be like, hey, what were some like entrepreneurial things that I did as a kid that I can lean into, and drawing those art pieces by hand. And then eventually that led to like being in high school, selling video games to my friends. So shout out to people that like helped me kind of just give me that validation and understanding that like, hey, I can do this. As like scary and uncomfortable as entrepreneurship can be. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. Where do you want to go with things, Andrew?
No, that's so cool. I also was that kid in middle school who was able to, buy chips at the store for 25 cents each and then sell them for $1 each at recess and feel like I was making bank.
Nice. You did through the chip industry instead of like school supplies or anything like that?
Oh yeah, no, I capitalized on the chip industry, and my little brother, you know, he was proud that he would go to the dollar store and buy 4 rows of you know, cookies for $1, and then he'd sell each row for $1 each to his classmates in high school and middle school. So I guess us Weisses, we like selling food versus pencils and stuff like that. And
Prepackaged food.
prepackaged, of course,
Obviously.
yeah, of course. And I love, you know, how most people don't, you know, see their entrepreneurial skills until they're in high school or college, maybe even after college. But you had a little peek at your entrepreneur skills when you were in second grade. Tell us, I'd love to hear more of the journey, how you go from charging 50 cents for a drawing to, I'm sure now, several $1,000s for video packages. Like, how does your mind even comprehend that? How'd you make that?
Yeah, and I can only connect those dots like now. At the time, I was just like, oh, this, like, my parents are only giving me like 25 cents to like make my bed, or they didn't even really give me an allowance. I didn't grow up with chores and allowances. I've had to teach myself that later in life. But yeah, it's not a linear path by any means. It wasn't like, hey, I was selling these drawings, went to this, went to that. It was kind of like I was just kind of going through life. I don't know. I never even really considered myself a creative. So it's like really weird being in this position, being interviewed by you, Andrew. Like, I never really considered myself a creative, never really even considered myself an entrepreneur, but just like fell into a lot of this through necessity. So like I mentioned, going through corporate America, or like going through high school, and then going to college, getting that job. The first big one was like I said yes to kind of the big corporate job that came my way. The first one, I was like, hey, you know, this is what I've been working towards, and it kind of aligned with what I wanted to do, is video production related, and working in marketing, and kind of getting a handhold there, because I also have a passion for like advertising and marketing and just like brand and how things look and feel, which probably makes me a little bit different than the average videographer that's just making videos and just wants to maybe do films, whereas I have like kind of that angle that I like doing social media and like YouTube videos and kind of short promotional type clips. So yeah, the path was like, hey, early on I had some validation, I guess, and then got that first job where they gave me even more validation. I'm like, hey, you can get paid to do this creative work. And then the final, like, third validation was like leaving corporate America, the scariest thing I've ever done to date, leaving a 9 to 5, very like comfortable, good community, amazing, like everything, to start my own business and follow, like, I guess, like said passion, or like I had an idea that I wanted to like create video that gets seen. I don't know if I feel like a lot of creatives, they probably work, you know, if you're working in corporate America, a lot of your work probably doesn't get seen, because at least that's how I felt. Like 80% of the stuff they only showed like 20% of the stuff I actually made. 80% of it was just kind of like hidden in the dark, and I'm, you know, maybe it'll eventually we'll see the light of day. But that was always really frustrating, because as a creative, you don't want to create for, you know, a dark room or a closet. You want to create so people can see your work, and you want to like be able to, I guess the title of this is like leverage, you know, video. How can you leverage it if no one's seen it? So that's kind of my path, and I fell into doing my own company by I don't know, like it's not how I originally wanted to do it. And originally I would like be in a comfortable space, and I would have like started my business, but I started my business I didn't have any pre-ideation or whatever. I just was kind of sick of my job, and I'm like, hey, I know like I can be happier out there. And I was just so unhappy, and it was causing a lot of anxiety and stress. And I remember, like, I mean, my wife will even attest to this, like just sitting on my back porch, like looking up at the stars, like, man, is this really like what my life is? And just crying, like it literally like breaking out in tears, like this sucks. Like yeah, I think a lot of people, and especially as creatives, like we don't see the world like very binary or very like numbers or digital driven. Like it's not just black and white. There's a lot of gray. And so, and as a creative, it's like I want to have like more of a purpose, or, you know, something that's bigger than myself. And so my company creates that for me, and more. And we can dive into that too, because it's like every day as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, is stressful. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and you ride the highs and you ride the lows. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. I'm pontificating here, Andrew. Steer me in a good direction.
You're good. I think I accidentally adjusted your mic too. Are you able to toggle your mic settings a little bit?
Oh, you cut my mic off?
Yeah, because I was used to muting myself, and then
Does that sound better?
Oh, much better. Okay, now it's better. Perfect.
Testing
Yes.
USB.
Yes. Okay, much
Yeah.
better. Yeah, you're good now.
Cool.
Perfect.
All right, let's keep it rolling. These people are listening. We're live right now, Andrew.
Yes, we are. So, yeah, that's such a great point. And growing up with my father as an entrepreneur, it's how life goes as an entrepreneur, is that some days you're like on top of the world. You're like, this is amazing. This is awesome. And some days you're like, oh my gosh, this freaking sucks. How the heck did I sign up for this? Why am I not working a consistent paying job right now? What was I thinking?
Oh yeah.
And I agree that needs to be talked about. It is kind of the beauty and the terror of capitalism, is that you have to put a lot of risk on the line to get the reward. And at the same time, you have to understand what risks are involved in the first place. I also have had, terrible, lonely nights. I think when I first launched my business, became a full-time entrepreneur, like I didn't make an official sale until like 6 months in.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Because like I remember you posted this thing that was like, oh, made like way more working by myself than my corporate job. I was like, man, I wish I was Andrew.
Oh well, I had so I should say official coaching gig, I should say, because I was able to get other gigs as well. So I left in 2019, and then I worked with this guy from Australia to help do like social marketing for him. But then I had another couple months off, and then I had another deal as well, doing more social media marketing and more coaching. But as far as growing the coaching business, yeah, that took a solid 6 months, but I did get other gigs along the way. And then, of course, I have figured out how to since make more than my corporate job since leaving that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're an inspiration to me. Like I'm on your podcast, Andrew, but like you're an inspiration to me. You're knocking it out of the park, and like very inspiring a lot of people and motivating a lot of people to take action and create the life that they want to have. Yeah, you mentioned like capitalism. I feel very blessed that we're able to do this in this country. I've been to like a lot of different countries, and like yeah, you sometimes work a trade your entire life, or you're an apprentice, or you're in a society where you're not able to take these kind of risks. Because yeah, it is a huge risk, and I feel blessed to be able to do that. And yeah, thankful, in the U.S. that we were able to start our own businesses, because that's kind of it's essential for things to kind of keep moving forward, and innovation, and like new products and new ways of looking at things, and like yeah, it's an interesting system where it allows for new things to come through, and there are some advantages for small business owners. And so we could dive into those, but I think for the biggest thing, like I want to get across to people in this podcast, is that entrepreneurship is hard. It's very hard. It's going to be one of the hardest things you'll ever do, and it's all in. But like in life, you're always all in. Whether or not, you only get one shot at life. You only get one shot at doing all of this. And so to put everything kind of on the line to start a business, it's going to be really scary, and it's going to be hard. And I don't want to give people the wrong idea. Like, it's not for everybody. It is like not for the faint of heart at all. And I don't even consider myself like faint of heart. I thought I was like pretty stable, like very happy go lucky. I love to be positive. I always try to see the silver lining in things. But there are days where it's like very, very hard, or weeks where it's very, very hard. And you have to like stay motivated, and you got to take care of yourself. Because any one of these pillars, like you don't take care of yourself, your business takes a hit. If like, I don't know, that's always one of the biggest things I kind of stress for people, is like, make sure you're getting your meals, make sure you're sleeping, make sure you're taking care of exercise. Are you socializing with people? And I used to be like, oh, I want to like ride the wave, and like if I feel comfortable editing, like keep editing till 1 or 2 in the morning. And now I'm trying to shy away from doing that, because getting a full night of sleep, your brain just works so much better. I notice, like, if I didn't sleep a full 7 hours last night, I'd be struggling and stumbling over my words. And who knows, as we keep going with this interview, I might even continue to struggle. But I would say self-care is like kind of those big things. And just knowing that entrepreneurship, yeah, it's not the faint of heart. Like I almost wanted to write a blog post at one point, like the dark side of entrepreneurship, which is just like, I know that like mental health, like anxiety, depression, those all run really rampant for entrepreneurs. So if you're already someone that kind of has some like mental health things that you're battling, I would maybe recommend just keeping the consistency. I know a lot of people kind of hate on the like 9 to 5, it's consistent, but there are some advantages where like we're people of habit, and so if you have like things set in place, you're able to be a lot more calm. And like I know when I was working a 9 to 5, I was able to invest a lot more in my like self-improvement and doing some of those things, because it was like, okay, work is done, now I can invest in myself. Whereas as an entrepreneur, I have to create my own like kind of my own like borders or barrier, like a structure. I have to create my own structure. And so like I can't wake up and just play video games for an hour, because then my brain's going to be like all spazzed out for the rest of the day. Like it's good to like I like to eat the frog right when you wake up in the morning, work on video editing for a few hours, and then I know that the day is like a win.
For those listening, what does eat the frog mean, in case they don't know?
Yeah, I forget who gosh, who did I get that from? One of these like old sales, I don't know, it's not nice to say old, but a sales professional, probably from like he was in his heyday, or like 1980s ish.
Og Mandino, or
I don't know if
Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn.
It was like of that caliber. I forget what his name was. Maybe it was Harvey, Steve. No, I don't know. Not Steve Harvey, but
Steve Harvey.
Yeah, he probably has. He has a lot of good quotes. No, I can't think of it. I can't think of the author right now, so it's my bad for you guys for not having that off the top of the head. But pretty much, eat the frog is like kind of what it sounds like. You know, it's something very disgusting that you don't want to do, but if you do it early enough, you kind of get it over with. So I don't know. Maybe it's a chocolate frog if you're Harry Potter fans out there. Shout out. But yeah, that's what I would recommend, is like, or that's what works for me. But that's what's really interesting about the entrepreneurial journey, is that like everyone is unique, and how you structure your day and what works for you isn't going to work for everybody else. So for me, it's been a lot of tinkering around with like what's a good day structure, and then any number of things that come into the day that you have to adjust, and like an email comes in, or someone wants to work with you, and you kind of want to be prompt with those communications. So just, I don't know, being organized and figuring out what works for you. I think there's like that old quote, like know thyself, and entrepreneurship 100% forces you to know yourself if you want to be able to thrive. Whereas, I don't know, I feel like if you're working for somebody, you can kind of, you're like, oh, I am who I am at work, and then I am who I am outside of work. And those become two different things. Whereas entrepreneurship, there's a blend. I know some people are like, there's no difference between my business and who I am. And I don't know if that's really healthy either. Cause like you should have like some boundaries, like, hey, I'm taking this time to take care of myself. Cause it's really easy for people like, oh, I'm not going to watch any TV, or I'm going to cut out video games, or any of these things. Are like watching the sports. You can tell that obviously I'm
you like all those.
Yeah, I like all those. Just your classic middle-aged white, guy. I don't know. I feel like I need to draw attention to that. I'm just and I'm trying to stay away from like bro marketing, which has become a bigger topic these days. So yeah, I would just say figure out things that work for you. Structure your day in a way that like brings you happiness, and like only you know what you can do. Like for me, I know if I push myself harder one day, I'm going to pay for it the other day. So it's better to have like a balance and not push as hard, and be like, especially as a creative, you have to kind of bring the creative to, like you bring the creative up. I don't know. What's her name? I'm all over the place with this interview, Andrew. I'm sorry. But Big Magic, she talks about like, people aren't a genius, but they have a genius within them, is how people used to think of it, especially like in the Roman times, apparently. And so I totally agree with that. You kind of have to take care of like your inner creative. I'm not a genius, so that's not what I'm implying. You got to take care of your inner creative. I don't even know what that term means anymore, because you got to live like every single day, and you got to be consistent every single day to actually even show results. So like you can't be like smart for one day. You got to kind of show it over and over. But what she says is that you got to take care of that genius, or you got to take care of that creative within you. And for me, that's like getting a good amount of sleep, taking care of all these other buckets. So that way, when it does come time for me to be creative, I'm able to be on and be attentive and be ready.
I love all that. and I want to go back to you, sitting on the porch and looking up at the stars and going, gosh, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? So there's two aspects of that. The first is going back to how to take care of yourself as an entrepreneur, and the second of is like, if someone's listening in, they're thinking about being an entrepreneur, but they're like, oh man, I don't want to look at the stars and cry.
It's inevitable, I think, honestly. Like, you're gonna get broken down to tears at many times throughout your entrepreneurial journey. So like, if you're, I don't know, it's not for the faint of heart. But yeah, is that kind of where you're going with it? Just like, what was that feeling and what was I sitting with, or just like what I recommended to someone else?
Well, it goes back to, I think, understanding, it's okay to cry for sure as an entrepreneur. And so the question is, how do you go about, I like the topic we had, like taking care of yourself as an entrepreneur. You mentioned like making sure you still have fun with playing video games, but hopefully in moderation after you get your work done for the day. It's okay to watch sports games, but maybe you can, leverage that opportunity as well. So I guess, and I also want to, while it's top of mind for you, I think you wrote a viral blog about your first year as an entrepreneur. You posted on LinkedIn. I think you got like 500 likes and 1,000 comments. And so I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit. But I know I'm also kind of giving you like 3 questions at once.
I think I can navigate.
Okay,
I got you. Okay, first, I guess leaning into looking up at the stars, questioning everything. I'm sure a lot of people relate with that because like I was on this journey. My parents, I love them dearly. I wanted to do everything right by them. But I'll say up until like I was 28, I was living my entire life for like my parents. It felt like
Wow.
had my that's a long time. I think most people stop living for their parents like even as early as like 15, 16 years old. Like, I'm not gonna listen to you guys. Like I don't know. I valued what my parents, their input and all of that. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish up high school. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna get a job. And then I remember telling my parents, like, I'm miserable. Like, this is not making me happy. Like, I want to do something else. But my parents are like, no, but you have benefits and you have like a steady paycheck. And they were worried about me and they were worried for me because I don't know, like a lot of times as an entrepreneur, if you start telling people or before you become a business owner, if you start telling people, they're going to put their own like impressions on you and tell you that because they know that they can't do it, they're going to tell you that you can't do it. Cause they don't know you and they haven't lived your life. And so that's something that you have to kind of lean into is you got to know yourself again. And you have to rise above that. And I didn't tell like a lot of people because I knew that I'd get judgment and I'd get pushback. And I was like, I just got to go for it and I just got to do this and, you know, believe in myself. You're honestly like that bird jumping out of the nest and trying to fly for the first time. And if you don't, then you have to go back to working again. If you do, I don't know, but by all means, I'm not successful yet. And I'm still just trying to get out of that like survival mode because the pandemic was tough. Like, I think what also is connected with that looking up at the stars like story should be March of 2021 where I didn't make any money, which was a big eye opener for me. In 1 month, I didn't make any money. And I had to like, that really hurt. And you're just like, wow, I didn't make anything. This is not good. So then I had to like really dig into like that pain and not feeling like, I don't know what it is. There's something about in our society, like an association with like value and worthiness by making money here. So if you didn't make money, you don't feel valuable and you're like, that's how I felt. And so, I don't know, I leaned into that. And luckily, like by, getting out there and networking and like marketing myself and knocking on doors, I was able to get some opportunities. And so it was an eye opener, but it was also really, really uncomfortable and really painful going through that. And so I think that's similar with like looking up at the stars, just like, man, through all this pain, I'm able to like move into like another like space. Like you have to kind of reach rock bottom before you can start to like build up again kind of mentality. And so I kind of see it as a silver lining. It's easier for me to like look back on that. Like at the moment, like March 2021, didn't make any money. I like told some of my family members about that. And they were like, oh, you need to like go get a job. Like you need to quit this. But I'm like, this is my passion. This is like what I wanted to do. So it's like, again, like trying not to look for validation in other people because you're going to get pushback from people out there. What was the other part of your question?
So it goes back to, that's a good example of talking about, there was a full month you didn't make any money, and I'm sure that was tough for you. And so I guess the question is, what do you wish you had known sooner to help prevent that and help prevent less times looking at the stars per se? Like what do you know now that you wish you had known then, or